What do you get when a London-raised American South African and a New York-raised Moroccan meet on the interwebs and become instant soul sisters? One of them, an Ayurvedic practitioner and transformation coach, and the other, a Conspire Breathwork coach and Reiki master teacher. Both obsessed with wellness, family, entrepreneurship, relationships, and the magic of human expansion and growth. You get a whole convo. We truly believe that with an open heart, focused mind, and energy receptive to the possibilities, your wellness journey can guide you to a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. Welcome to our podcast. We're Ella and Iman, and we are so happy you're here. Come vibe with us as we explore the wholeness of being through the lens of wellness. Welcome to a whole convo with Ella and Iman. Iman, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Ella. How are you, darling?
I'm good. I'm happy for these two. We are going into a little more detail now, or not even detail necessarily, but an insight, a little sneaky peek into what happens if you come to a Conspire Breathwork session and in Iman's episode, an Ayurveda session with her. So how are you feeling about sharing this real quickly before I get into my situation?
It's always fun to share and give more insight to people who may be curious about Conspire Breathwork or Ayurveda. So super excited.
Absolutely. And this is, I think, part of the reason that's inspired us, because you hear us talking about these things. And if you've never been exposed to this or experienced something similar, it's an anomaly. So here we go. I talk about Conspire Breathwork, which is part of the Conspire Method. And the reason I call it a Conspire Method as opposed to just Conspire Breathwork on its own is the way that I work, the breath is a central feature and central part of running a session one-to-one, and it can be in group as well. And it's not the only important thing in a session. So the Conspire Method is a way of blending personal development, I think maybe in a more traditional sense. When we think about coaching, we think about focusing on making movement in our lives, making changes, looking at the perspective, designing a life that we would like to live, something that feels more aligned with our values, that feels more aligned with the type of person that we want to show up as in this world. Now, in order to do that, I feel it's really important to be able to work with where we are and take that into the future. So I'll give you an example in relation to relationships, in connection with the relationships. So if there are significant relationships in our lives that are challenging for us, that may be impacting our ability to express ourselves, to communicate, and to feel like we're flourishing in all aspects of our lives. And this might be a present experience connected to things that have gone on in the past. So through the coaching aspect of a Conspire Method session, we will spend some time focusing, and this depends if it's a one-to-one situation and you're in part of a longer program. This is broken up over the series of however long the program is, but we'll spend part of the session tapping into what's going on for you now. Are there any particular challenges that you're experiencing? Is life showing you repeated patterns, for example, that you are finding yourself going over again and again and again? And how would you like to feel differently? What would you like to be able to do versus the current experience that you're having?
In a conversation. So
Absolutely.
you start off with a combo.
We start with a convo. Absolutely.
A whole combo.
A whole convo. And, I realize as I was saying this, a lot of this sounds very general, and that's because it can relate to absolutely anything in that client's life. And if it isn't in a one-to-one container over a period of time, then we will break that down over the weeks. And there's the stabilization phase where we're looking at balancing or harmonizing the nervous system, harmonizing the physical and emotional activations and triggers that we are experiencing, into then a creation phase. So there's different phases, and I'm just going to leave it there because it just sounds so like, what do you mean? We talk, we coach, we explore, and then we decide how to move forward. And the beauty of having this conversation at the start, before we go into the Conspire Breathwork section of a session, is that we can get engaged with things that our mind can hold us back. Our mind can play tricks on us. Our mind can really be stubborn in life creation and in day-to-day life experience. So when we're able to explore some of these themes and feel like there is a way forward, it's very helpful to uncover how we can utilize insight in our breathwork session as well. So the beauty of breathwork, the beauty of Conspire Breathwork is we don't actually have to know what it is that we're accessing. We don't have to know what it is that we're helping to upgrade. We don't have to actively get involved in that part. And yet, when we take time to have a conversation first, then we can actually get deeper into some of the themes that are showing up that we may not realize. So it's the combination of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind working together and having the breath as a catalyst. So we'll have a conversation, decide the themes, and also have actions. There may be homework, there may be things to take forward after the breath session. So
Okay.
these are things that we identified together through the conversation to go and action to utilize into that person's life, the client's life, to consciously bring about change based on the conversation that we've had. And then by bringing any sticking points, anything that feels challenging into the breath work session, we can start helping build those blocks from the inside out,
Hmm.
bringing the unconscious mind on board, working on any emotions that may be causing friction, that may be interrupting that smooth flow of making change or making decisions or whatever it is that comes up in the conversation. And then we bring that on board. The more breath that we have in our body, the more space it takes up, we will see that reflected in that person's life. So it's that combination of getting that inner understanding consciously and then bringing that unconsciously to allow that connection to happen and that deliberate creation in our life in order to move forward. And then the session is built up of hands-on. So there is a part of the session where there is hands-on, whether that's virtually or whether that's in person. Hands-on, there's movement, there's sound, there's integration, there's a lot going on. And
Wow.
then we move on to the receiving space in the session where that person is then integrating the experience that they've had in the conversation before the breathing began and during the cleaning up of energy, the space making with the breath. And that is a beautiful space to be nurtured, to be supported. A lot of people get deep insights, they
Yeah.
get, emotions maybe coming up, there may be intuitive connections happening. And then at the end of the session, there's a time for feedback in terms of what the breath was showing me. And the client can share their experience. And then they go off and take their time, allow the session to land, to integrate, implement the homework, and then we move on to the next session and see what that brings. So, I love talking about it. And I also realize that it sounds a bit abstract. Um,
Right.
you know, if you haven't actually experienced what this is about, but this is just like a practical peek in the door of the actual structure of having a Conspire Method session.
I love it. And yeah, for sure. I think these kind of things do sound abstract most of the time. But as someone who has actually done one with you, I will quickly say that I do like the layers of it. That beginning was like a conversation, kind of seeing where the client is at, asking certain questions to really have a focal point. That's what it felt like anyway for me, is to have a focal point and then right after to have a breath work session in which you use breath while that focus is in there is very unique, and I really appreciated it. And for me, I was laying down. I wanted to ask you, do people have to be laying down? Are they sitting down? Is there like a better way to do it, or do your clients do it whatever way is better? Like, are they sitting comfortably, or do they always have to be laying flat?
It really depends on where we are and how much time there is. The optimal situation is to have a space to lie down in, and that the position of that can change. It doesn't have to be on your back constantly or lying down that way. I was going to say horizontally, but what other way can you lie
Well, there was
down?
well, unless you're a vampire, then you're laying down. Right.
That's so true. So true. So it's lying down, yes, is the most comprehensive way to approach it. But if you're doing a shorter session, it might be sitting up. If there's a group session, you also might do it sitting up. If
Yeah.
bigger group sessions I do will tend to be sitting up, based on how much time we have for breathing and just the practical space that you're in. But there is so much versatility.
That is a word I would use for that experience. That it felt so versatile. It felt like so many layers. And what I enjoyed most is how unique and different it was than anything else that I've done, especially in relation to breath work. I love it.
And it's one of my treats that we've been able to share that experience together, because it is absolutely an honor to share the breath. It's like, to me, the most intimate insight you can have into someone's life, and connection with them. So thank you for sharing that experience with me, and thank you for asking those questions, Iman.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing a little sneak peek on the Conspire Method with you. Love it.
Fantastic. So it's been a whole very short convo with Ella and Iman, and we'll be back really
We'll
soon.
definitely share the links on how they can learn more about it, Ella, right? And all the things that you have going on with that. So if people are curious or have questions, we'll share in the show notes all the links and all the goodies.
Absolutely. And we'll be back really soon.
That is a wrap on this week's convo. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your time, hearts, and minds with us.
We hope this episode left you thinking, feeling, and maybe even breathing a little deeper. If it moved something in you, please share it, text it to a friend, or just sit with it.
Remember, the power of change can start with the simplest convo.
And if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss a moment of the magic. And if you're curious about any of our services and offerings, check out the show notes for all the links and goodies. We're so grateful you're on this journey with us. Until next time,
Stay rooted, stay whole.